Okay, moving on to namespaces in chapter 7. We're going to see how to create namespaces, why use namespaces, and how they work. So you've been using namespace std for quite some time, since chapter 2. So namespaces are essentially used to avoid overlapping of identifiers and functions and constants that we may use between different functions and different header files. So if you look at this, we have a couple of namespaces in here. And to see how it works, I have a namespace called global type. And in there, notice how namespace is a reserved word. Global type is the name of my namespace. I have a few constants and variables, and I also have a function definition. So I have constant pi, I have a couple of variables, int and double, and I have a print something void function. Now I have another namespace called assignment. You can have as many namespaces as you want. See how it works. In main, notice I have another x. So this x is local to main, and I say enter a number, and I'm going to read it, but notice I'm going to read it into global type, and this operator here, the two semicolons, is called the scope resolution operator. So it resolves the scope of this x, meaning I'm saying this x is not this local x, but it's the global type x that is coming from my namespace. So we are actually reading a number from the user and putting it into that x and not our local x. So then we say you entered global type X. Then we say enter another number, and that is now read into our current X. And then we say you entered this X. And then we call our print something function. Notice how we use our scope resolution operator. So the good thing about it is you can have multiple variables with the same name, and to avoid confusion and to be clear as to where you're calling these variables and functions from, you'd use the name of the namespace followed by the scope resolution operator and the name of the function. So it's a good way of categorizing things, especially if you have multiple variables, or if you want to put them globally instead of just throwing it out globally. You could put them into namespaces and use them. So try it and see how it works. Let me compile this and let's run it and see what we get printed out. So it says enter a number. I'm going to do 34. It says you enter 34, enter number 10, and it says you entered 10, and print something simply says print something. So unless we use this somewhere else as global type X and regular X, it simply says you entered two numbers. But you can see the difference where you're using the scope resolution operator and you call a different X as opposed to the local X.